Hello. Okay. Blah, 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 blah.
highly deceiving from us, the change place. Some, including ours, not changing, where others unrecognizable from only years ago. Tonight, ABC's Jack Smith, who's ahead of the times. Say goodbye to the office as you've known it for half a century. Here, nimble thinks elite. Status is who comes with the best ideas, who has got biggest. It's like reaching up and taking it off the wall. It's a virtual office. Reaching up and taking a pile of letters. Title or any of that thing. In the future, you may not even have an office, at least not the one you know. When you click on the pile of letters, it appears down there. That's right. It's like reaching up.
Katie, who's Katie?
Hello. Hi, I'm a PhD student in ATLAS, signing on for the seminar. Oh, it looks like you muted yourself.
Okay, and if I were to share this screen,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure you're seeing you're seeing this person's hands, right? Hello?
I'm seeing it looks like a video, and there's two hands and a rainbow between them.
And if I go back to
Mhm.
just a moment, I want to make sure I go to the right places.
Mhm.
Darn it, where now? Yeah. Oh, there. Now you see revolution in reality, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to go to the bathroom quickly because it seems like we start in 3 minutes. Is that true?
Yep. Still a few minutes out. I've been forgetting
And
until
how many
after,
how
so
many
I was
people
trying to
will
be early.
What?
I said I've been forgetting to sign in until I'm late,
time?
so I was trying to get ahead of myself and be early today.
Oh, are you a student or a organizer or what?
Oh, I'm a PhD candidate, so student status.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, but
And
we usually start
it
just a
starts
couple
at
minutes
3.
after 11:30. We'll expect 25 people, I think.
All right. I will start by not sharing, I guess. Okay.
Sure.
And there. There's another person. I'll be right back. Okay.
All right. Hi, Pierre.
Hey, Katie, how are you today?
Doing fine. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Are you hosting today?
No, I just happened to sign on early, and Ted wanted to make sure his screen sharing was working, so I
Cool.
obliged, of course.
Yes, of course.
I figured Ellen would be on early, but
She usually is.
mm,
Something must be going on.
there's always something. It's been that kind of year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here I am. I'll be right back. Here I am. I almost got to meet Katie, but then more people showed up. You can all hear me though, right? Okay.
Hey, Ted and everybody.
Hi there, Mark.
Boy, it's from one Zoom to another. Ellen and I were, oh, there she is. Ellen's talking, but she's mute. Or maybe she's not talking to us.
Oh, she's not so mute. I've heard her talk.
Ted, it's good to see you here in my house, figuratively.
Let's
Yeah.
wait for a couple of minutes.
Ellen and I were just in a
Justin's
NSF
picture is
webinar
double
on.
face.
Ellen and I were just in a NSF-sponsored webinar on making the leap to large, how to do large NSF projects where large is 4 million or more. So we're kind of full of lots of thoughts.
Wow, that's fun. Yeah, I should get back involved with NSF. There's looking through all of those, even just doing the grant things is interesting. You know, makes you think. All right, I think plenty to say, plenty to talk about. I might want to reorganize just a tiny bit. What do we got? 2 or 3 minutes? Is it right now?
Sure. Don't
No, we
do
can start
major
right now.
operation.
What? Don't do big operation?
Yes.
Oh, you know me. I
whatever
was
you
just
want to do,
yeah.
be fine.
What?
Whatever you want to do, be fine. Okay.
All right. Well, then why don't we just maybe I should just jump into it. What was this NSF thing you were doing? That sounded like fun.
It's called making it large, and so they're trying to encourage people to do larger proposal, which should be multidisciplinary, multi-institute. You need to have contribution to science and engineering, to workforce and economy and innovation.
Well, the dangerous thing about large is it gets to be like EU, where everybody is talking about the project and not enough people are just playing. And you know what I love about both of you is that you guys just do stuff, and doing stuff, you know. And I was just reading this book on Scrum, and it's of course not, but guess what? Small groups that all communicate a lot to each other, you know, kind of run out of steam when they get above 7 people. So, you know, it's a dangerous dance. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but you know.
I promise, as Schrödinger said, I promise to be careful.
All right. Well, I think I should probably share this screen here.
And happy birthday, incoming birthday, Ted.
Oh, thank you. How do you know about that? You should know.
Our
Yes,
birthday is only a few days apart.
It's a fancy birthday.
Fancy birthday.
So
cool.
we have
okay.
Yeah, it's a fancy birthday. So we have 6 of us now.
We have 27 people right now.
Oh, I just only see a few. Okay. Is it, do you want to introduce me and just do it, or what do you think?
You can just do it. Oh, if Mark wants to introduce you, he can.
Sure. The first time I met Ted Selker, he was working at Atari research labs in California, came to visit the Cambridge lab where I was working, and he had on his belt a little fake pen that you find in banks to sign checks, and he was telling us all that pen computing was the future. And you know what? Like many times, Ted was right. That's my introduction. Go Ted.
Go Ted.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, I'm sitting here. I love to look at things. This is the case for the first virtual reality product I tried to make at IBM, and we did all sorts of fun things about thinking about the value of looking at the eyes, both the pupil and the outside, and eventually I went to the media lab where I made this pair of glasses where you could literally with about $1 of hardware, I could tell by looking at but it could tell by looking at me whether I was focusing, whether I was scared, whether I was falling asleep, when I was nervous. So it's kind of a, you know, and that mirror that it created with this thing called IR, you see it's the shape of an eye, you've got the eyebrow on it, and R is actually infrared, but I use the word R, I use R anyway. This IR board would would literally be able to let a party of people, because we were at the media lab, we had parties all the time, walk around and when they stared at somebody else, that person would get their business card. And and it would really be able to, when you went to look at a demo and you were interested in the demo, it'd send you information about the demo. So in that way, the system was really trying to recognize goals for you that you could recognize. I actually got on Good Morning America with that once. You see me over in the right-hand corner of this picture. Am I sharing yet? Yes. Do you see that? This
Yep.
picture? Yeah. So there I am staring at a dog that starts barking at me, because if you stare at a dog too long, it does get upset. So I've built all sorts of things. I'm always building things. This is a helmet. When I got really frustrated with AR, VR early in the 90s, I built late in the 90s, I built this helmet. And this helmet, when you put it on your head and it was moving a little bit, it turned on running lights. And when you tipped your head, it'd make blinkers. And when you yelled, it would cover up your obscenity with a horn, 130 decibel horn. If you talked, it would let you speak to your telephone to call. The point is that and if you shook your head, it would literally mark that geolocation, and you could say, hey, that pothole here is terrible. And then when you came back, you'd hear yourself say, hey, that pothole is terrible. So I built that, and I actually wore that for a while. And what I loved about it is that my hands were on the wheel and my eyes were on the road. So I was doing, really a mixed reality system that was all audio, which is a very strange thing for me. I'm a very visual person, but it was really out of the frustration I had with the difficulties of distracting people. And so I wanted to use this to mediate communication between a person and the world, and do it in such a way that the person was never compromised. So you're gonna hear that, me coming back to that. I will just scare myself by trying another early demo. Let's see if I can find this. Oh, okay. So there I am on ABC television with somebody showing this wall-shaped thing. And the idea was to make your virtual reality be, your whole room became your computer, and it has all the things that you would ever have in a room, the books and, email and telephone, and you can look out the window here with the world, and you grab it with this thing called a view board. Let's see if I have one here. With this view board, and because this was it actually went to the Olympics. This thing, was so early on that it was a tethered thing. But anyway, I'll just play a couple seconds of this guy.
Ted, we're still looking at your opening slide.
Oh no. So that's interesting. So how do I let you see this? I'm sorry, I thought that worked. Katie, you and I deceived ourselves. Okay, let me just hang on. I think we will, if we don't get to, we won't. Let me just see. Okay, so if I go and share, new share. Okay, so there I am.
No.
Not seeing it.
No, you're still looking at my
title slide.
Title slide.
My screen. Yeah, I get it. I will.
If you stop sharing and then start sharing again,
Yeah.
you choose a different window and you may get closer to what
Yeah,
you.
I was hoping that I could do a screen instead of a window, huh?
Yeah, I think one of them will kind of do that.
What will?
One of the things you can, don't ask me how you tell, but I think one of the things
I
you
will
can do-
just for fun
Yeah, do it
try
again.
that,
Yeah.
even though it's just a distraction from what we're doing. And I will go screen one. Maybe that'll do it. Okay. So now you see me talking to,
As a young Ted.
And what? Yeah, there I am. And oops,
It's like reaching up and taking off virtual office. Back scientists have taken all the clutter in today's typical.
I'll go back now. I can actually go back to my slide. Do you got my slide or no?
We got your slide, your opening
So-
slide. Next time you should be sure to share sound as well.
Oh, how do I don't know how to do that. Okay, well, that's
So
too
one of
bad.
the
It
sharing
doesn't,
options. Yeah, that's fine.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I heard a little
You
bit.
know, by the way,
Turn it down.
Zoom is not my favorite toy. Yeah, but anyway, as we're still introducing me, I'm just going to say that I'm very proud of something that happened this week, which is that this product here is going to be available worldwide to monitor helmets that go on COVID patients to keep them from going to ventilators. So that's people alert. So people like Mark and Ellen and I, we're always doing lots of things, and that's something I'm doing. All right. So what I'm just talking about on this slide is here I have myself working in a bed, looking at a ceiling, and I feel like when I wake up in the morning, it makes a sunrise. So and when I'm getting tired, it puts up all the stars and makes these constellations I can play with. That was a room with a view. And this was an exploration I did where there's this woman going into this is very, very old, going into a store. People don't go into stores anymore. And what it would show her is what she looked like in outfits that were on the wardrobe, on hangers right next to her. So it kind of gives a progressive relationship for her. And if she feels good about herself, maybe she'll have herself projected on the wall so everyone's staring at her with that new outfit on. Maybe she doesn't, and she just looks at it on her PDA on her telephone. So I've been playing with this stuff in various ways. This book over here is something that I'm currently believing is central to anything we do that's about immersive experience, which is that we basically have been making computers for 60, 70 years that take our attention. I think we're in an office and we're focused on that spreadsheet or whatever it was we're focused on. Quite frankly, we are usually now in a social dynamic while we're using even a more sophisticated app than anybody ever had on those old computers in those offices. And the question is, how do we not die? So the number one way people are dying in cars today is by texting. And the question is, how do we make computers that are not egocentric, but have a sense of what is a reasonable relationship, and they become peripheral, and they know that, in fact, we always have things on our minds that we're not focusing on. Like if the ceiling was to fall, I would kind of jump to the side. So I've got a million things I can deal with, but I don't have to have them all in my face at the same moment. I have to have a way to understand how to introduce them and take them away. All right, so enough of this slide. This is really a talk that I really enjoyed putting together. As you can see, I worked for Magic Leap, and Magic Leap is a mixed reality company that, well, we'll talk about a little bit as we go through, but they got back into this topic for a few years. And I started thinking about, well, where did this all come from? And, you know, even in the first century, people had this image of looking out, seeing something that could be created for them. And that crystal ball, they would pretend they could see into. Of course, people also take hallucinogenics and try to see things that they just make up. But it's in the fairy tales. And then in 1935, there's this lovely, very short paper, story you can read, Pygmalion Spectacles by Weinbaum, where he has these glasses that have oil slicks on them, and you put them on and it takes you to this other place, and it really creates that whole illusion in the story. And the illusion is described in the kind of detail that a science fiction writer tries to design to try to inspire people to make something. Anyway, of course, there's some love-making experience. I don't know. It's all pretty fancy. And of course, Vannevar Bush was a guy that did all sorts of amazing things. He wrote a amazing article that I was just looking over at the original in Life magazine in 1945, where he had pictures of people using looking like this. They could actually were making an experience for the future for other people. This man, by the way, Vannevar Bush is an important person to know about. He not only was the president of MIT, who cares, but he created the NSF and DARPA and maybe the CIA, I don't know. But he really was a promoter of technology and wrote this beautiful piece in 1945. He did all sorts of, very bright guy. So you see this animation off to the right, and that is an animation taken from a bowl that was spun. When you look inside it, you see this animation of this deer jumping, and this deer was painted on this bowl 5,000 years ago. So movies are kind of old. And there's a guy named Din Huan, who 100 years BC was making zoetropes also. So a zoetrope is like this thing in the bottom right corner where you look through slits and you can look inside, and you probably have all seen this, and you can see a movie. So pretty fancy. We've been thinking about this a while. And in the 1960s, people started making 3D glasses and making input approaches. So there's many things we can do with augmented reality. Is when you have some text around you or on you. Mixed reality is when you are looking out into the world and there might be extra critters even, and things happening in the world that aren't real. And virtual reality is when you make all that stuff happen, but you don't actually see the physical world. You're just looking at displays. So those topics, AR, VR, and MR, are of course what this whole industry is crowding around right now. We'll get into that more. Anyway, I'm going to make sure that we talk about the fact in this talk about the fact that to succeed, computers must recognize and support personal goals. That's always on my mind is people. So in the movies from the beginning, of course, people love to fantasize, and we've got these mixed reality films starting with Metropolis in 1927 at least. There's that beautiful image of this being that is maybe not there. Wizard of Oz in 1939 took it to a height that I think is still impressive, where these people all go to this special castle to meet the wizard, and all they get to see is a projection of that looks really impressive of that person. So there's a tremendous number of examples of talking about creating reality through imagery and movies that has been very, very important. So quite frankly, augmented reality exists and it's everywhere. We're all using turn-by-turn apps. Believe it or not, Mark and Ellen and Clayton are all people that did not use for most of their life. They use paper maps, or maybe their head. They maybe use their mind to figure out how to get places. I'll just relay a very funny story. I was driving in a car with Don Norman in San Francisco, and I had a turn-by-turn thing on. And by the way, this is 15 years ago, I think. And I remember we were driving down the road and it said, turn right to get on the freeway. And I said, no, it's faster if I go straight. And Don looked a little concerned. And then I came to the next one and it says, turn left at this place. And I said, no, Don, it's better if we go on the way I'm thinking. And but then at the third one, I got on the freeway, but from there on, I decided I couldn't compete spiritually with this authoritative thing happening. And so I just followed its directions, because every time I did something different than it said, Don would look, concerned. And I think that's really a big damn deal, is really understanding the agency that the computer should be helping us have agency, not distracting us by taking over and making us not think, not actually be oriented, and not be building our model of how to get to the airport, which is where I was taking it. All right. So in activity, apps are now location aware. It seemed like such a pipe dream, but it's really very, very common for everything to know where it is, and it makes all the difference. Shopping, I'm in all stores at all times now. Learning, Google and Siri and Alexa, I can learn anything I want, anywhere, anytime, not even by going to a screen, just I'm there. And they've become subtle enough that I mostly put up with them. You know, so we are either situated or anonymized when we are on the computers. And you know, today you're seeing my a little bit of me there back there, but I can pull that curtain and you won't. For entertainment, you know, we are definitely in the Pokemon era, and I think the Pokemon was in many ways one of the biggest, most surprising experiences culture had at its time, where a virtual reality, you know, a mixed reality experience became so vernacular that I remember I was over in Bellevue near Microsoft one Saturday afternoon with a friend of mine, and this park that's about, I don't know, it's square and it's about 3 acres or so. It had maybe 20,000 people on this park running around with their cell phones looking for Pokemons. And it was just amazing. I mean, they were, you know, somebody'd say, I found it, and everybody'd rush over in that direction. And it was, I mean, I'm surprised no one got, that was a phenomenon that summer, but it's really an impressive, to me, experience that can be as captivating as that moment was. It isn't as in fashion now. I guess some people still try to find things in a augmented reality world, but I really actually believe it's the future. I believe that it's very plausible that we're going to be spending a lot of time in a game like Pokemon Go, finding the museum, finding the sculpture, finding you know, all sorts of cool things that we want to do. You know, it just seems a little bit, in a way, you know, something that's a little more fun than just looking at a map. Who knows? Okay, so the actual development of these devices that people are using, they may have started with the stereo viewer. You see up here, that stereo viewer, so it collapses it into one picture where you can really experience. That's 1838. 1838. I'm not even sure we had a railroad across this country. The anaglyph, which is this 3D, the 3D movie with red and green. I mean, look at how early this is. This is 1856. They literally made a movie theater where you could go in. By the way, I don't think I've got it there. Yeah, about that time, somebody made a movie theater where they had mechanical shutters in the 1800s that would give you left and right eye experience. I can't imagine no one got hurt. I can't imagine that it was a very good experience, but they made a whole theater do this. So this is really amazing. Now, the first guy that seems to have made money in this world is Link, Edward Link. He made shitloads of money. This guy, in 1929, he made this trainer. You see a little example of it over here. You get in this trainer, and you know, they made it seem like you're flying an airplane, and it saved a lot of training. It really made people fly better. They found their way, you know, they saved gigantic amount of money, and was a big hit. And still, I would say that virtual training for cockpit is one of the biggest most powerful successes that we've had. And I'll tell you about a really weird one a little later. So we've got this head-mounted display being patented in 1945. And then we have this guy, Morton Hellig. And Morton Hellig, he was in Hollywood. And this guy, you see him twice, and here he is in his Sensorama, and here he is wearing his head-mounted display. This guy made movies. He made little teeny vignettes, and this lovely Sensorama booth that he built, you would go into it and it would vibrate, and there'd be a little bit of wind, and there'd be this visual and some haptics, and he put them in malls and tried to make money by, coin-operated virtual experience in 1960, and made no money. Some people say his estate's still paying off his debts. So a little bit early, and maybe he could have thought of something simpler. Maybe this guy Link was solving a problem, and only a specific problem. And maybe that's what was good about that. Maybe it was a good thing to be surrounded by immersion in order to learn how to fly an airplane. And maybe the best entertainment is always in our head or with our friends. So I think entertainment has been, is a gigantic industry, but it is not as big as you think. I mean, I think the record industry, the music industry might be, what is it, $60 billion? It's not a $1 trillion business like medical. Okay. So about that same time, some other people were playing with putting cameras and displays on their head. And at Philco, they made this thing which could tell where you were looking. And so you could do the telepresence thing. You could be somewhere else. And, especially good idea to be inside of a nuclear power plant without having to be inside it. So they played around with that. It was so that's the second thing that people did. They did media, they did presence. And another example of presence is a separate kind of direction, which we saw on that picture from Vannevar Bush, where they in 1965 some football players had the luxury, discomfort of wearing this camera, so that people could see, as a hero does today, what they were seeing as they were on the football field. And again, Hero what is a big phenomenon. The company almost went bankrupt a couple of years ago. Maybe it still exists, but so that's the danger of writing these things as ads as opposed to as solutions. So the mixed reality with graphics is the third approach that I think is important to call out here. It's about using this is Ivan Sutherland's system, and it was supposed to be a place where you could design things. And I'm a big fan of designing things easily and being able to visualize stuff. I'm always making stuff out of, actually chewing gum or whatever it is that's on my desk and trying out ideas. And I'm sure that's what you guys do at Atlas too. But I think that was a little later than some of the other ideas. Now, some people tried to make this stuff more commercial. Again, this is the second wave. And some friends of ours, of Ellen and me and Mark, I think, are Scott Fisher and Warren Robinette. And they were involved in this setup. And this setup, VPL is a company that my dear friend Tom Zimmerman, who was also at Atari with Mark and I, and Jaron Lanier, who was also at Atari with us, went off to do after Atari collapsed. And actually, I even introduced the two of them at some point. So this glove is the first glove that was able to sense your hand position. Not that we have to belabor that. And I'm not really convinced. There was something about an escalator and going up and down. I'm not sure how much, but I know that Warren Robinette wrote a lot of stuff for it. Not that, and one of the things I want to mention about that time frame is be a little concerned when, okay, we would go to SIGGRAPH where Jaron would be showing off this setup, not the whole setup, not the suit, but just the goggles. And everybody would wait in line. There'd be an hour wait to go play Pong. So you'd play Pong, or you'd go or something like that. And the problem with Pong is that it requires no latency. And the problem with computers generating images of that era is they all had lots of latency. And so when you think about how to design stuff, you want to match what you're doing with it with what you can do. So one of the things that I'll tell you about some of the examples of how to get rid of latency later, of what to do if you have a lot of latency later. But you know, well, I'll give you one example right now. So I have this image that a good thing to do with VR when it's got a lot of latency is teach people how to not dock the evergreen in the side of the Suez Canal. So that is a very slow process, right? This boat is moving a lumbering way, and you want to simulate it, and you want to think about what's going to go wrong, and you want to teach yourself in all of that wind. They were in gigantic wind. You know, what do you do differently, and so on and so forth. So when there's a lot of latency in a boat, but once it catches up with you, you block the Suez Canal for a week or something, right? So that's a way that something with latency wouldn't be a bad simulation to experience. So in the 1990s, we moved on to trying to commercialize it. And you know, what's impressive to me is I recognized that Virtual IO and Cybernaut and VIO were all making $50,000 systems that went on your belt. And I realized, I was at IBM at the time, I was making PCs, I was making ThinkPads. I realized I could make one that was cost them 10 times less than what they were paying. I think it was Lockheed for their VR hardware. And so I made it, went in this box, and I called them up, and I said, look, if I made a really cheap one, would you want to buy it? And they'd say, sure. And I said, all right, you know, between the three of your companies, maybe you can make an order of 10,000, because I'm not going to be able to make it unless it's 10,000 units. And they said, oh my God, no. So there they were making something that was 10 times, I was able to reduce the price of their bill of materials by 10 times, and they weren't willing or able to make a commitment. That's how you know that the product isn't going to work, right? I mean, if it really, it's not even at that level. So here I am with that working system. Here's one of my students with it. We wore it and used it, whatever. There was a group of people at MIT Media Lab around that time that did a lot. So we have Steve Mann. He liked to wear ones where he could take videos of what he was looking at. There was Brad Rhodes, who I think did a lot of work that is really unsung. He wore this thing all the time, and he had an AI system that helped him record everything that he was doing with notes, and he would be editing the notes as he was doing it. Now, Thad Starner did a bit of that also, but he didn't have the remembrance agent that Brad had, where Brad would literally be able to bring up things by his AI thing helping him. Thad was well, they were deep colleagues. And then this is what's his name? Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, he was wearing this big mess, and that was Rich. That's right, Rich Duvall, right? Yeah, and he was yeah. So this is what life was like in the mid 90s. Okay, and here are some of the products that never made money. Now it's become a very fashionable investment. This is some of the products in the last couple of years that have been available. And down to the bottom right one, that one's kind of big because I worked my butt off on it for 3 years. But you know, these things are not a pair of glasses. And the ones that are, I actually like. So these two, the VIO and what is this? Vizex, and I can't remember which one this is. This is anyway, these ones try to put things up in front of you as you're doing it that are simple. And I think maybe that works. And what's really impressive to me is that HoloLens, this is actually another company that's gone now. Of these companies, half that I have pictures of them, half of these are gone now, by the way. And that this is 2 years ago that some of these were viable. But the one that's making money, there's a couple of people that are making money in this world. One of them is Sony, and it's because they tie their glasses to games that people are already valuing. And I think in general, when we design things that make something we value better, it's an easy way to get people engaged in it. That's one of my product manager kind of statements. The other one that's making money is the HoloLens. And why the HoloLens is making money? Oh, and so the Sony one, they 100,000 people play with it a weekend. They sold 2 million of them in the first year because it was an accessory to something they already loved. The HoloLens is a different story. It is trying, as Microsoft does, to just plow through the mud and make something that will, be based on all of the wonderful software that they have and all of the customers that they have and all that good stuff. But quite frankly, the reason they're making money, I think, is that they're outfitting people that are going to hurt other people. And so they've gone through the military route. And quite frankly, my experience as my business consulting kind of side again is that once you start working on military problems, they become very compelling and it becomes difficult to become a normal company again. So we'll see if they can get through that process and be as profitable in their in their commercial side as in their military side. So today's glasses are just amazing. I mean, they have outside awareness. The amount of sensors on a Magic Leap are such that it makes a mesh. That means it recognizes where everything is. And when I'm playing with my Magic Leap glasses, which I don't know if anybody around there has some, it literally knows about the table, and something falls, it falls onto the table. And if I push it, it pushes off and it falls onto the floor. If I pick it up, I can put it on the chair. I mean, it's really, to me, extravagant and exciting. The box, I say 50 degrees, which the HoloLens one was 20. The Magic Leap was 50, and then the HoloLens 2 is big like that too. These things are going to get bigger, and the glasses that I was working on at Magic Leap, we were trying for double that, and we were trying for pretending we were some day going to get to glasses like this, and that's where we're probably going to be going. High resolution. I mean, I a few years ago when I put on one of these VR glasses and I saw, and it looked like a real world, I was so shocked. I couldn't even believe it. And, painting in the air with these colors and, being able to move around it. I mean, it's just amazing and shocking that which was the Holy Grail, which we always dreamt of, by itself, without scenario, isn't the solution. So they're bright, they're stable, things aren't shaking. I mean, I was just amazed when you put on these Magic Leap glasses and you put a label on somebody, like, here's some mountain wear, you can put a label on them and literally isn't moving around, right? I mean, think about it. I'm moving around. That thing has to move around at the same speed I am and be registered to all the thing that I've got wearing. This is all possible now. Maybe you guys don't see it as magical as people that have never that worked so hard for so long to get there and didn't get there thought. But anyway, the sensing today is just extraordinary. I mean, I have a paper where I literally have somebody pre-coffee, pre-cigarettes, holding a cell phone for 30 seconds and us telling them with a 95% accuracy how well they slept in the last 2 weeks. That's where sensors are. Sensors can tell. I mean, that wasn't designed to do physiological measurement, but guess what? We accomplished it anyway. So sensing is extraordinary. And, we've got the kitchen sink style of designing here going on with this Magic Leap, having every sensor, every camera, everything on it. And you go back to what I was doing when I got pissed off at VR the first time, and I made these glasses which would just do something simple, which is tell how, if you're falling asleep, we literally made a demo where if you put these on and studied, it would try to wake you up if you nodded off, right? Wake you up. So, this is literally with, a button battery and a $1 chip. And I'm just using an 1 pixel camera. It's looking at literally the motion of my pupil. And by doing that, I was able to get all that information. So I recommend you always try to think of how you can get what is the simplest way to determine the thing you want to determine that's going to make the difference for a scenario of interaction with a user as you're designing it, not just use every possible sensor you can think of. It's great when they put them in and they have in these things to imagine these things, but we still have to understand why we're using which sensor for what purpose. And the audio on these things, oh my God, it's better than a boombox to have a pair of Magic Leap glasses on and be hearing and directional sound and beautiful bass and you know what? If you're listening to it at a normal listening rate, someone next to you can not even really know it's gotten magical. So, and people are just making all this compelling imagery. Oh my gosh, imagery. And the question I'm going to come to with all this imagery is, what is its value? So it is rumored that this little game that comes with Magic Leap, Dr. what? Anyway, that cost $90 million to make. Nobody plays with it. So we have to be careful. What is the reason we're making these things? Okay, that's really the question. This is imagery of doing some financial planning, and there's somebody in a mixed reality in your house doing something awful to you, and here's and so on. So I'm gonna stop for a moment and see if I can run a video of my very favorite demo ever made to kind of demonstrate the dystopian opportunity that we are confronting, if I can. Okay, and this guy Kiichi Matsuda is just an extraordinary artist who built this up about a few years ago now. No audio? So do you hear me or them?
Both.
Okay.
Seguro que no hay más trabajos disponibles. Estudié para ser profesora y estoy haciendo mercados.
Y además puedes quedarte con los puntos de fidelización. Eres una amante afortunada. Tienes que confiar en la aplicación. ¿Te sientes inspirada? Gracias. Chao.
She's on a bus.
¿Quién soy yo?
Introspection.
No, eso no es lo que quiero decir. ¿Para dónde voy? No. Puedo volver a empezar.
Thinking about changing her life. She's going to lose everything. Luckily, she has to get off. Okay, this is going to go on a couple more minutes, but I think it's worth it. So you see these things that are layered on, like this page. Now it's telling you to clear it. Now she's going to go do some grocery shopping for someone. It's her job.
Hola otra vez.
So everything around her is trying to advertise to her. Mark, have you seen this much? Have you seen this before?
Ay, no,
No.
cállate.
Now she's going down an aisle. She's like, the item is teaching her all about what it can do for her. But now, unfortunately, she has some viruses got in and she's trying to fix that. But in a minute, you're going to see what happens when it crashes.
Buen día, Emilio. ¿Qué puedo hacer por usted? ¿Qué está pasando? Mis puntos están bien. No se preocupe, sus puntos están seguros conmigo. ¿Le puedo ayudar en algo más, Emilio? Yo no soy
This is the help desk.
Yo soy Juliana Restrepo. Por favor, espere.
Hola, Juliana Restrepo. Me alegra verte. ¿Qué puedo hacer por ti?
Mis puntos están bien. ¿Qué está pasando?
Tranquila, todo está bien. Parece que alguien está intentando vulnerar su cuenta. Por favor, espere mientras reinicio su dispositivo.
Now watch what happens. This is that is the world. Some baby crying, right? So enough of that. But anyway, the point of that is that those affordances are really powerful and exciting, and yet, you know, oh, let me see. And yet they have these dangers too. And there. And now you see my PowerPoint again, right?
Yep.
And you can hear me, okay? Yeah, okay. So sorry for that excursion, but it really, in my view, well, why do I get rid of, I want to get rid of this hyper reality thing, darn it. Oh, there, it's gone, okay. Okay, hang on. So, so, you know, I think you know, the question is, how can it nudge us without being really overwhelming? How can it judge us without being inconsiderate? How can it give us a hug without it being, you know, cloying? And so here, you know, here's some people using augmented reality to do rock climbing, and it's giving them some motivation. Here's some people using it to put furniture in their home, and they're picking furniture and then they're overlaying it over their actual space and exploring it. This is one of my favorite experiences, which what is the name of this company? They make these for a living. This is literally them painting a castle with these beautiful pictures. They've done it inside of the Carnegie Hall. They've made these events where they literally put imagery and change the look of buildings and insides of places, and it's a huge business actually, and they do it as a performance experience. They'll transform whole cities. You guys are probably more aware of it than I would be. There's my helmet, and the idea of that helmet was to mediate communication, me and the world, right? And so that idea of having a reason for the product, for the reason that we're doing the experience is what it's about. And I literally used to, this is me on the front cover of some magazine, I guess, with that helmet on. But I used to actually literally hold my meetings with my students on this helmet, riding my bike into work, because it was a 6-mile ride. And actually you'd get more of my attention. And that nose guard is actually a sound stage. So what I was able to do is make it seem like I was in an office by not riding so hard that I breathe too much. But so maybe I shouldn't be, but I'm a little bit of a multitasker. Now, the first time I'd really seen value to the actual heads-up display was at 1989, and I saw both of these demos. And it's amazing that it was that long ago, and it's also amazing that none of the community remembers them very at all when I tell them, like, you know, when I talked to Andy Van Dam, he didn't see these. But what we do is we put on, and I got to do it, you put on this harness like you're going to be in a parachute, and then you control the parachute, you pull on the two sides. So now all we now have is two scalars, right? X and Y, and we translate that into, I'm looking down at a building with an X on it that I want to land on. Remember what I had about a sluggish interface? This thing was done with a normal high-end PC of the time, which is not much of a PC for anything you're doing today. It's, I mean, it's a tenth of anything that you'll be able to buy. But by the fact that you were going slowly for 60 seconds down, you were getting a very good feeling for what it was like to parachute. And they said that they were in these, they actually used this to teach trooping, and they got 1/10 the injuries from the people that trained this way instead of the people that went and jumped out of airplanes as their training. So this was a big damn deal, okay? And none of us have ever noticed, but I want to make a big deal out of it because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for things that are fun, maybe, but also have value. Here is at the same time, there was another group of people. None of these were the highly funded, whatever, all the fancy people like Mark and me and Ellen. This was garage operations. This one here was, I mean, not quite, but inexpensive hardware. This one, if you had a terrible, you're too stupid to not ride a motorcycle, and you got turned yourself into a quadriplegic. This was, or a paraplegic. This was a way of exploring your apartment before you went home from the rehabilitation center. And all you did is you played with the wheels on a wheelchair, and it was just, again, an X and a Y. And you could literally navigate this space very much exactly like if you were in it. And what's great about it is that the wheels have sluggishness and lag, so you didn't notice. And that's a really powerful point. Now, it's surprising that the Kinect, which also had like almost a half second of lag in it, the thing that went on top of the monitor for Microsoft, made it as a product. And if you look carefully at those early demos, what they've done is the agency you get is not controlling the things that you think you get to control. You are controlling things that, the ones that are successful, they think about you dancing, where synchronization isn't so important, and other things like that. So think about the affordances of the user interfaces you have. People have been trying to use it to augment airplanes for a long time. They've been in the cockpits of airplanes for a long time. My most impressive demo in that regard is a bunch of clouds where you're not supposed to fly, and a clear corridor in the sky where you can fly, and some other kinds of things like that. That actually is a really lovely visualization that was used in cockpits. As early as 1988, the Cutlass Supreme put your speed on the windshield, just projected it up onto the windshield. You've seen clocks like that, but this is me in the 90s trying to talk about the whole front of the car's display being a screen. I mean, your windshield being a display, and so many things can be done. If all these cars are parked in an array near an airport, why aren't they a big display for anybody that looks down as they're flying out of that airplane, right? And there are so many things you can do. As the cars on the street have displays in them, they can be advertising for the pizza joint that they're parked next to, right? So these kind of things. One of my favorites that hasn't been done and should be, and there was a little bit of an exploration by Steve Mann actually, is welding. Because there I am, unable to see anything. I don't know how many people, raise your hand if you've tried to weld, but when you're welding, you literally can't see what you're focusing on. All you can see is a red puddle, right? And so this is where this kind of technology would shine. If you can see how deep is that puddle, and what is the picture, what does the thing look like when it is not completely blacked out by by the fact that I'm trying to protect my eyes from that brightness. So that is my kind of, here I am pushing how to design products. Look, what people do is very interesting. So when you are looking around, if you're looking at this picture, this is a picture called Coming Home to Dinner. And in 1967, this guy used an eye tracker to tell what people were doing when they looked at this picture. And he asked them 7 different questions. And what you'll just have to notice is that their eye patterns can tell us pretty much, except for the 3 and 4 actually are pretty similar, estimating ages and looking about the family's circumstances. But in any case, it's interesting that people actually do that. And I made a whole bunch of demos that where you looked on the display, changed what it thought. And so it literally, you'd go over to this display and it'd group all of the Media Lab sponsors that had that you were interested in place by just watching your eye tracking. So that's kind of what do you do as the interface? What's the input device? And another thing to think about with the input devices, we thought about a couple of years ago when we were like worrying about people, as I was saying earlier, dying while they're texting. Am I okay? Do I have 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 2 minutes? What do you guys tell me? How much time do I have?
People are going to start dropping off in about 3 minutes.
Oh man. Okay. Well, anyway, so basically, we checked all these biometrics while you're driving, and we had you doing too much. And with pupil dilation frequency itself, we were able to tell within 3 seconds that you were overloaded before you started making mistakes driving. I'd love any of you guys want to make a company with me. We can go make a lot of money keeping people from dying by using that user interface. And the question is, what are we going to do when this all goes mainstream, right? And we have lots of examples, but the mainstream is going to be when it doesn't keep us from having our relationships with other people like we want and being the people that we want to become, as opposed to dragging our attention around, dragging our concentration around, and being dangerous the way that these that texting while driving is. So I think that it's really critical that we focus when we're designing the future, and especially with things that are going to immerse us in this world where we're creating the world that we live in, that we think about peripheral interaction, that is bringing things in only when we need to, think about making things that are considerate, that care about my focus and what's important to me and how overloaded my attention is and to communicate, and thinking about what kind of modality is critical for this thing. I think that user interface papers have been very busy saying I can make a pie menu that's really wonderful, and I've written those papers too, and they're wonderful. The thing is, the question is when to use the pie menu, and all the time is what some of us would say, but you guys have never seen one, so it's hard to know whether you should use a pie menu. So I really think that helping us figure out when to use that quiver of tools that we're building as user interface researchers, designers, product designers, whatever, is critical. And so thinking about what scenario makes sense and where is the whole of it. I think I can watch this. Oh darn it! Oh no! Hang on. Shoot! I might not. Oh! I see what's gone wrong. Let me see if I can. Well, let me get back to. Just hang on. Where was my? Oh, I was having so much fun. Oh. Is this? No. Oh. Maybe I've got to. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Whoa. Hang on, my guys. Just a moment. I've thrown out my bathwater with my baby. So there you have. I'll just there. Okay. So, whoops.
I think we'll have to invite you back for, you have so much material. We have another hour's worth.
Yeah, I've got lots of material. Anyway, so I will just, I know you've got to, it's time for us to finish, but I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, which is, I was going to show you a beautiful video, which you guys can watch of somebody texting while driving and crashing. It's very sad. And I just want to bring us back to the beginning, that to be human is to dream, to make, to tell stories, and to be social. So that's 1 minute over because of my distraction. There's more I can talk about, as you can imagine. I'll just show you. I'll leave you with this a virtual reality. Well, no. This is my Zoom lookalike that makes you aware of C3 is a video conferencing system that makes you aware of when you've spoken and when other people have spoken, to make you aware of your relationship with other people. So a lot of the things I do in my research is thinking about collaboration and considerate computing. And that I've been talking about a lot in this talk, about how to really think about how what you're going to do is going to fit into people's lives. So thank you very much. Is there anybody that wants to stick around for questions, or is that probably enough for
Sure.
I'll stick around until my next thing pops up.
Okay.
Clayton.
Yeah. Should I stop sharing, or should we just leave it with this slide up? What do you want? So anybody have some questions? I'd love to talk about these things with any of you and learn about what you guys are thinking about or doing.
How about a stock tip on Magic Leap?
Yeah, I'm not giving any stock tips on Magic Leap. No. Surprising is, we made a display. Literally, one of the things I worked on was displays that were 1 millimeter cubed, that were on glasses like this, that were, we made glasses that were 40 grams with 4 displays, 2 displays per eye. So I'm just telling you, the technology is moving along. So any of that was interesting. Yeah, go ahead, please, Clayton.
So this is going to be a bit of a detour, but I associate Warren Robinette solely with Robot Odyssey. So I had an idea that he had this whole other thing that he did. What's he doing now?
Warren Robinette is an amazing person. Carolina, to work with Fred Brooks on VR after he worked at NASA. He's still there. He's a grandfather, I believe. And there's a beautiful video of him and Henry Lieberman and me and Gail Curtis talking about Fred Lakin at the bakehigh.org site about several months ago. And it was a celebration of a man who believed in performing graphics as a computing approach, named Fred Lakin, who is a dear friend of Warren Robinette's. And you can hear Warren talk a little bit there. And Warren is one of the brilliant people in our lives. He, like Clayton didn't know, he did a whole lot in the whole VR world after he made probably the first successful game system. I don't know if it's quite the first, but anyway.
That's what I also remember him primarily for, that Rocky's Boots. There's a question in the chat, but before we get to that, offline, would you send me a link to that video if you know where it is? Because I loved Fred Lakin, and I'd love to see that video. But there's a question in the chat from Brody Cyphers. Okay. Question in the chat is, have you had any experiences with the Ready Player One style omnidirectional treadmill technology? There are pretty cool prototypes that have come out recently.
Yeah, so you stand on this treadmill and you can run in any directions, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper. And so I really believe in haptics. historically, people tried to make these keyboards that you would type on by looking at the keyboard, and you put your hands on top of it and try to type. You can't type very fast. When you have haptic feedback, you type much faster, like double. And I think, and you make less errors. So it takes less concentration. So this idea of running, gosh, you know, we all go to the gym and do that. And I think that running all in the same direction is maybe makes repetitive injuries of your knees. So I like the idea a lot of being able to move around in the world, a fake world that can act like a real world. By the way, on the other hand, I don't go to the gym. I go outside to exercise. So I think that we can get wrapped up in these toys that we make. And the question is, when are they toys and when are they tools? Yes, Mark? Mark had his hand up.
Ted, yeah, no, Ted, I was waving because I've got another call coming in right now. So thank you for doing that. And let's connect offline and hope you can come visit us sometime in the flesh.
Your choice.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be delighted to. Late June would be a good time. And if you can,
well, we'll see how pandemic goes. And there's more in the chat for you. So pay attention to that. Gotta go, guy.
Oh, okay. How do I go to this chat? I better stop sharing. And
Amy,
I'm going to go to.
Amy, you
can
can
I
ask
look
the
at
question.
chat? There.
Cannot hear you, Amy. You're
Okay.
muted.
Okay.
Still muted.
Emmy, yeah. Well, what are your thoughts of insights of augmenting reality beyond the visual channel and olfactory and taste? So, you know, if you go back to the 50s, people made these movies where they'd squirt a little bit of smell in as you're watching the movie. And the 3D of the movie is another thing. Quite frankly, the whole sensorama thing doesn't work. All that works is people's imagination. Whether you are looking at something or not, you cannot see it. People have this situation where if you're watching a football game and a gorilla goes across the screen, you don't even see it. So it's what we focus on, what we attend to that matters. In terms of the technology, we are there. You know, Amy, go out and you can buy any one of 10 of these systems I've been talking about. They have great fidelity, they have great time lag, they have great everything. They don't cost more than you can buy something good. I'd go and buy the whole lens for a couple $1,000s and then make the world different. But quite frankly, you've heard my position. It's about creating the story in the scenario. Okay, Brody, have you ever had any experience with Ready Player One? Okay, that one. Rocky's Boots, and Zoom. Yeah, sorry about the Zoom thing. You should use C3. Try C3.chat. It's my one. Well, are there any other thoughts or questions that somebody wants to?
I have a question for you. Sure. So,
yes.
Do you think that augmenting the real world is make everything more complicated than making it simple? And I'm going to explain it a little bit more. So we are using, for example, calculator to, instead of like showing an equation or like doing multiplying, we just give the final answer. So do you think that it's like instead of like augmented reality, we need something like diminished reality, that like instead of for example, I'm giving you an example. If I'm throwing a baseball to you, instead of you do all the calculation in your head and like try to pitch, if you know where is going to be the final position of the ball when you're pitching it, is it going to be more helpful, or you think that we should
so I'm gonna, yeah. I've got the complicated and simple and a couple of other really important questions in there. I want to bring up something I call advisory agents versus assistive agents. So an advisory agent is somebody that says, hey, Ted, you should probably do this. It's a butler. An assistive agent is somebody that does it for you. Oh, of course, here's your turkey sandwich you didn't order, you know? And so most, the augmented, basically the self-driving car is the assistive agent. And I made something called Car Coach that made you drive your best. And it made you drive your best by giving you incentives to drive your best and making you aware of when you're doing a good job. So I think that as a training thing, you know, seeing the trajectory of the ball, seeing where it's going to finally be, that's fabulous. But if you become to depend on it, then you are a lesser you. You are not a person that can actually hit a ball. You are a person that can play this game with this headset on that has a ball involved. And the question is, when is what appropriate? So if you take a look at the old drones, right? The helicopters where you had to run all the controls and fly the drone, you learned about control. Now that you have a drone, you learn about taking a photograph because it takes care of all that. That's an assistive agent. But if you really want to learn how to play baseball, as opposed to learn how to, play baseball when you're wearing this, you go back to trying to fade the support. And so that is a technique for training where you do hand over hand. You put a person, you know, when they're on the dance floor, you make their feet do what they're supposed to do. And then you, maybe if they get to be a dancer, you take off that suit and they get to dance without it, right? And that training wheels is with the goal of removing them is how one way to get simplicity. The other way to get simplicity is to say, all right, because I can put a sign appropriate to TED, I don't have to have it up there all the time. So the roads get less cluttered. And now I've got a more beautiful scenery because people only see signs when they need to, right? That would be an example. Am I answering your questions?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, thank you. That it was a nice talk. Thank you.
No, it's a great question. Great set of questions. And I do like those. Did you make those animation, those figures behind you?
Oh no. Thank you. Yeah, it's just I just grab it.
Okay, well, it's nice.
Thank
So Ellen, what are you thinking?
Sorry, Sophia, you want to ask the question yourself?
Oh, sure, I put it in the chat, but I was just, excuse me, asking, what do you think is the most exciting thing that we should be looking for in the XR space in the next 5 years or so?
Oh, being able to integrate it into your life. So if I have, and I wrote a big paper about this that I haven't been able to publish yet. If I have a pair of these glasses on all day long, what I want to think about, and be happy to work on a read with a PhD student anytime, is how to make them be something that I don't tear off my head and stomp all over. So one time I was riding a bicycle in Manhattan and I had on a watch and I was listening to a book on tape and a car almost killed me. And I remember it was only a cassette tape that long time ago. I took the whole thing off my head and just threw it in a garbage can as I drove by. I was so angry because, you know, I'd almost lost my life because I was focusing on something else. And that's the danger. So if we want to integrate these into our lives, in 5 years, that's the most exciting thing that I'd like to consider is making these that are helping me every time they do anything for doing something positive.
So I guess kind of a follow-up question off of that is, do you see the optics technology of these glasses getting to a point where they can be comfortable for such long durations of time? For example, I've never had issues with screens, but when I spent 1.5 years working for a VR company for the first time in my life, when I was in a headset with a screen this close to my face, I ended up having to start wearing blue light glasses nearly all the time when I was looking at screens just to like cope with the amount of time that I was using VR headsets. So do you think that's something that we can go away soon?
You know, by the way, this Zoom culture we're having has a little bit of that feeling too, doesn't it? People are getting, feeling, zoomed out, they call it. And there's a lot of reasons for zoomed out. One of them has to do with we're not used to looking into other people's eyes all the time. And that's a weird thing from an animal behavior point of view. So Ellen's always being animated and making me think about what she's thinking about, which I love. I think that yes, Unreal and even the Bose augmented reality earphones are examples of things that are getting down to the 50. When we get down to 50 grams, there's glasses out there that are 50 grams. These are lighter than that, but the head stress is not what I worry about. It's the mind stress and the perception stress, and that's the thing I'm most frightened about. But it's a good follow-on question. What company did you work for?
I
Sophie?
worked for Reality Garage here in Boulder.
Oh, cool, good, lucky you.
Yeah, they have, if you're
And-
ever at the Wings Over the Rockies museums, we can hold hands and jump out of an airplane.
So Sophia, maybe you, because you did this for years, did you get anything out of the talk though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there
really,
anything new?
what I really enjoyed actually was the discussion of how computers should have the same goals as us in terms of, tasks and integration. I also enjoyed the concept. I take notes all the time, always. I enjoyed the thought of using augmented reality to remove things from reality, because when we think of augmented reality, or at least when I think of augmented reality, I tend to think of, overlays and like the project I'm working on right now with VR. I'm adding overlays to footage of weather balloon launches. So it's adding that information onto the video that's already taken. And the thought of being able to use augmented reality to remove things from reality to simplify it was really kind of an interesting thing that I haven't necessarily thought of that much before.
Yeah, think about those clouds in that airplane scenario. Really, those clouds are not a good place to go, right? It's nice, clear, beautiful sky in front of us, and that example is one of my favorites. Okay, well, thank you, Sophia. I wish I got to know all of you guys a little better. Ellen, is that enough for now, or do you think there's some more questions? I'm happy to. Daniel, do you think? Thank you for talk. So I had to leave. Oh, bye, Dan. Okay. Is that enough for now from people? What do you guys think? One more?
I've got another question, Ted. So have you run across the XR Access Consortium by any chance? Is that phrase
No.
reach you? So I've not been involved. I went to some initial meetings. So this is a group of people interested in making VR and AR work for people with various limitations, including especially visual limitations. And I should have thought of asking you about this before. So if you had that challenge of making VR or AR work for blind people, how would you approach it?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I've hung out a lot with blind people. And what's really sad is how bored their seeing eye dog has to be. And I'm thinking about a particular friend, Jim Dixon, top lobbyist in Washington, and he has to go to the bathroom, every hour or two, and he has to go across a street, 2 or 3 times a day, and he has to get into a car, maybe 2 or 3 times a day, and so on. I can make a list, and it's not that many minutes, but now it's getting to the point where you can turn on hey, help me out. Everybody's got this camera, and literally this idea that somebody can be his eyes for the few minutes that he really needs to be doing that is a very exciting direction. I think it's a profound, support for people that are blind. So that's an example of one that I really love. It's very simple. It doesn't take any software. It doesn't take anything but a good network, and it works today.
Yeah, so I agree. That's really interesting. Also, I haven't seen Jim for many years. Are you in touch with him currently?
All the time, yeah. By the way, another thing is that,
Say hello.
I didn't know you knew him.
Well, yeah, I can't even remember why I know him, but I do. But anyhow,
so, he lobbies for people being able to vote with disabilities is
yeah.
what he does for a living.
So to encourage you a little bit, okay, so here's the kind of thing that the XR Access Consortium is thinking about. So let's suppose that, contrary to fact, that Magic Leap game it becomes like Pokemon, so everybody's playing it, and you're a blind person. How do you respond to that? So is there a way to produce a somehow related, somehow comparable experience that doesn't rely on vision?
Well, there's lots of audio only experiences. I mean, when you put on these Bose headsets and you walk down the street, maybe not their product, maybe it's only a prototype that I did it with, you look at it, you turn towards a building, it tells you about the history of the building. You look at the street, it tells you where that street goes. You will go by a cafe, it says that it's open when you walk in. So you can do a lot with audio. And in fact, in Paris, most businesses, I believe, are outfitted with a prosthetic, so that if you are blind, you can hear them calling out to you where they are. And the street signs also can speak to your personal device to give you an audio augmented world. Now, if you want to ask, how do you give people that don't have vision? There's a lot of things people can do. And, people have done everything from putting a bunch of dots on the back of a chair that vibrate on your back to other things. I think that that's a whole field. But I kind of think that there's a lot of games that can be made that don't require our eyes, that might even be, and yet, I don't know all the answers.
So one more. So could you imagine an authoring framework so that when you author something visual, you get as a side effect a comparable non-visual experience?
Well, I made something which is called Empathy Buddy. We got a Best Lasting Impact Award for that paper. And what it does is, while you're writing, it has a face next to it that's happy, sad, angry, or surprised based on what you're writing. And so it's a reflective medium that helps you see what you're writing, and people change the way they write. So that's kind of the thing that you made me think of anyway. And I think, I don't know. There's a lot of other things one can do. What's bad about that one, just relative to what I would love to do for a writer, is that the thing that's hardest for me as a writer is to keep organized about what part of the thing I'm in when I'm writing something. I can find myself writing in circles where I keep writing this. I keep forgetting that I've told people that part of the story already, and I tell it again and again. And especially when you're writing something the size of a book, it gets very complex.
Great, thanks.
I don't know if I'm speaking to your question, Clayton. Yeah.
Aspects of it.
Well, there was a question from Brody asking you about your favorite emerging haptic technology and for using VR, AR, or even for 2D screen. Ted, do you have a favorite haptic technology?
Well, so many years ago, I went to Comdex, it was called back then. And there's 200,000 people gathered to look at technology. What do we call it today? It's in February, anyway, January. It's in Las Vegas. Everybody shows off everything. And this couple that was a sex shop friend. They had a whole bunch of sex shops they franchised. They sat on both sides of me in the airplane on purpose, because they just like to kind of have somebody to play with when on their airplane rides. So they told me all about their lives and everything. And then they invited me to this other conference that was all about that. And there was a device there for the soldiers in Iraq, that, you know, so that they both people at both ends of the experience could experience their sexual equipment. So that's one that, you know, it's been around for a while. You know, telesex is you know, maybe should be everybody's favorite. It probably isn't anybody's. Is it anything anybody want to admit that they even care about? There's haptic technology and there's haptic experiences. I'm going to leave you with one haptic story, which is that, by the way, I mean, they literally were, it wasn't even expensive, this thing, but so a haptic story is that for years and years, people like Margaret Minsky were involved with making mazes with haptic devices. Beautiful, high quality, high resolution, low latency. You go through this maze, and if you hit the edge of the maze, it goes bang, and you could, and you'll think it's really interesting. Well, Paul Maglio and I at in IBM made a version with my haptic track point. That's the pointing device in IBM's notebook computers, which I invented. It's that little red nipple. We made some that were vibrating ones. And with that one, we did the opposite. We made it so there's gravel in the middle of the maze road. And as you get to the edge where you're going to run into the edge of the maze, it goes quiet. So it doesn't feel like a place to be at all. So the place to be is in the middle of the road. People could go so much faster through this maze by having the feedback supporting their goal, not supporting their failure. Okay, so this is what I say about haptics. There's a lot of more that can be done with haptics. I could give you 20 more examples of fabulous things that are going on with haptics. I'll give you one last one. There's a paper in Interact 2015, I think, where they had vibrators in the epaulets of a motorcycle rider, and they would tell them to turn. So it's hand over hand haptics, right? Tell them to turn, and they got this guy to go through donuts in a little race course faster and better by having these on than just using their eyes. Okay, so Ellen, what do you think?
Cool.
Is that yeah? Any last parting shot?
Well, huh? Last parting shot. Well, do you teach a haptic course?
I would be delighted to teach a haptic course at CU. If you invite me out for a semester's time, I'll do it.
All right, that sounds fun.
I have a haptics patent that I want to tell you about that's issued. Is instead of using electromagnetics, I use phase change to make a display-sized haptics device that has a haptics under each pixel under I would love to get somebody like Apple or Samsung to use this technology, because it's going to take no space, and it's going to with these haptic devices take a lot of space in our devices, and it's going to have higher performance. That is, it's going to react with less latency. So that's one of the things I would love to get to happen.
Would you be willing to? Oh, sorry. Would you be willing to share your email if we have questions for you later about haptics or VR?
Yeah, I guess I will. I didn't used to do this, but in the pandemic, when has a harder time being.
Look at Amy.
It's okay to get a little bit more.
Amy's showing the glasses.
Right. Cool.
That's cool.
Oh wow, that's fun. Oh, those are you've got a magic pad. Yeah. And one of the things that's really most difficult about Amy about those glasses that we didn't realize when we were designing it is that people hate not knowing what's going on inside of the glasses. And so I really would love those glasses to have ways to make sure that the people that you're talking to can be oriented to what your experience is. And that's another full part of this. So I don't know, you know, if I'm interested, I'm really delighted that you've taken some notes, Sophia, and I'm happy to hear back from any of you. And with that, maybe we will end this, Ellen. And I'm happy to set up a one-on-one, Ellen. I haven't talked to you in years. Clayton, others that want to, that have a specific reason or a paper we're going to write or company we're going to build to make something, you know. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I have to go look up your haptic pattern because that one sounds intriguing. To give people like a tactile display. Yeah.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Yeah.
Cool.
It's going to take some engineering, Ellen.
We got lots of engineer. Okay.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, and I'd be happy to get invited. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye then, everybody. Thanks for coming. How many people are here?
Bye-bye.
Right now, 6, 5.
I am leaving too. So
yes,
thank you so much for your
everybody's
time.
leaving now. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.